Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey Hearties, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host Nicole, and I'm here once again with my friend and guest co-host for Season 10, Theresa from the Heartie Observer. Today, we are going to chat about Season 10, Episode 4, Great Expectations. It was written by Elizabeth Stewart and directed by Peter DeLuise. The Coulter baby is late, but Faith assures them it's fine. By the time Rosemary goes into labor, the entire town is there to support her. Madeline tries to stay in Hope Valley. This was a great episode. And before we start talking about the episode, I just have to give a big thank you once again to the When Calls the Heart Instagram page for sending the t-shirt and sweatshirt, the sweatshirt I am wearing today. So thank you once again. I love it already.
It's a very nice sweatshirt.
Oh, thank you. Now for the episode. This was a big one for Lee and Rosemary, especially.
I would say this episode, personally, it made me feel so many emotions, especially with Lee and Rosemary, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, just so many emotions. I feel like I haven't really felt that in a very, a couple of seasons now, but I just loved this episode.
Yeah.
For so many reasons, but
yeah,
the Coulters was definitely very high on the list, and I loved what was happening with them.
Yes, it was the best episode of the season, in my opinion.
For sure. Yes, for sure.
That first scene with Lee and Rosemary, the pregnancy checkup with Faith. This was kind of comical. What did you think about this?
I have to say, as an aunt whose sister has very late babies, this was so accurate. So accurate. I was laughing the whole time because everything Rosemary was saying to Lee, oh, don't think about it, and them walking around the town to get the labor, going. I've literally done that with my sister. We walked around town to help her go into labor, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And she just at that point she was just like, I'm done. So super relatable, super real. I thought it was hilarious and really funny.
I loved how when they are in the infirmary and Rosemary had just mentioned that the baby isn't moving much, Lee goes into saying something along the lines of, it's usually like a football game in there. Or maybe it's because of the brisket I made the other day.
Yes, that was funny.
Oh
was brisket invented back then?
I don't know. Was it? I have no clue.
I don't know. Was football invented? I don't know.
Probably, I would guess.
Probably.
Football.
If he's referring to soccer, like football, like soccer, but by the name football, possibly. Yeah. Maybe football, the American sport, was invented. I'm not sure, but yeah, I did think that was very funny.
And then, of course, after, like you just mentioned, they are walking around town. Lee is trying to help Rosemary get her mind off of things. I thought that was really sweet. First, he brings up baby names, and she's like, Lee, that is still about the baby. And then he's like, your favorite outfits. I'm never going to fit into those outfits again. And then favorite Valley Voice headline, milk prices fluid, cheese solid.
Yeah.
Mike, he's like, that baby is taking its own sweet time. Locals have penchant for the painfully obvious. They say Raspberry leaf tea helps get things moving along. Friends won't let couple forget their baby is overdue.
I mean, like I said before, very realistic. I mean, I've never had a child in my life,
Yeah.
but my sister, she was literally 2 weeks late, I
Oh
think,
my goodness.
into her pregnancy. And at that point, that's when people start saying, like, oh, you're gonna,
Yeah.
like all of those things, like the Mike Hickams of the world all come out of the
Yeah.
woodwork and start, commenting. And
Yeah.
I do believe raspberry leaf tea is actually a remedy for getting labor going.
I've
I
never
believe.
heard that. And I don't think I've
Yeah, I
even
believe that is actually accurate.
had raspberry leaf tea. I've had hot tea, but not that flavor before.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that is accurate. So yeah,
Wow. That's pretty cool.
somebody did their research.
Yeah. I was actually, I think, a week early.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I was supposed to be born on April 12th. I was born on April 6th.
Oh my gosh.
So I was pretty
That must
much
have,
exactly a week early.
wow. That's amazing.
The big moment is here. Lee and Rosemary are walking by the Valley Voice in town. And of course, she goes into labor with almost the whole town present.
Of
And
course.
I like how Lee was there. He was kind of holding her arm, trying to
Hmm.
give her support. And she's like, "Where is Faith?" He's like, "I don't know." And then she's like, "Get Faith!"
Literally, I don't think I've ever heard anyone on the show scream that loud. It's like, it's like,
He was like,
whoa, okay.
"Okay."
Yeah.
And then Lee's continued encouragement, and then Florence and Molly running to get Lucas and Faith. I love how Florence was like, "I'll go find him."
Yes. Yes.
And
Literally, Florence and Molly are just running around like chickens with their head cut off. It's just so funny. I
and
love
then
their comedy.
Ned shows up, and Rosemary's like, "Ned?" And Lee's like, "I don't know." And then Nathan and Faith show up, and Faith handled that perfectly. She's like, "Rosemary, Rosemary, look at me, breathe."
Hmm.
I just
Did
love,
you notice in that scene when she told Rosemary to breathe, everyone in the group was doing the breathing exercises? I was dying at that point. That was hilarious. But
yes,
yeah, I would say Faith was probably the only calm one in the
yes.
entire situation.
Oh my goodness. And Ned trying to clear traffic, and then, he kind of just lets Nathan take over. He's like, "Okay, you got it, Nathan." And Nathan's like, "Clear path, people."
Yeah, you've got Ned like politely trying to tell people to move out of the way, and they're all just like, "Oh, we want to see what happens." And then Nathan's
Yeah,
just like, "Clear a path."
yeah.
That was very funny.
Ned trying to help
Ned,
was just perfection.
yes, Ned stole that scene for me. He and Rosemary stole the scene
Yeah,
for me. It was
yes.
so funny.
And then Lee, as they're driving away, he's like, "This is really happening." And Lucas is like, "Congratulations, Dad." That was really sweet.
That was sweet.
This was one of my favorite scenes, and it was Rosemary with Elizabeth and Faith at home. They are reminiscing about little Jack's birth and the mention of Abigail and the Christmas salami.
Yes. I do. I love, old references to old
Mm-hmm.
seasons. And this one, I think I had just recently seen the episode where Elizabeth gives birth to little Jack.
Yeah.
And hearing them talk about that and like bring up the Christmas salami again and then Abigail, it was just, to me,
Yeah.
I love all that. And that was one of the reasons why I love this episode, is because they
Yes.
made so many like of those references. And
Mm-hmm.
this one in particular really hit home for me.
Yeah, it did. I loved this line from Elizabeth when she says, "Despite all of it, I had my two best friends there with me, and I felt safe. And you were safe too.
Mm-hmm. I love how she, like was able to reassure
Yeah.
Rosemary in that way.
Yes, I
Because
do too.
to be perfectly honest, like Elizabeth was not safe during her birth. Like, like as safe as you could be in the
Yes.
conditions, but literally their car broke down. They're in the middle of the woods. They find an abandoned cabin. It's
Yeah.
it's not safe. But here with Rosemary, she's
Yeah.
got Faith. She's got
Yeah.
Elizabeth. They're in her home. It is safe,
Yes.
and I feel like that was the right
Yeah.
thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
think
think so too.
Rosemary is a little stressed about it, but
Yeah.
I think that was the right thing to say
Yeah.
for sure.
And if I remember correctly, wasn't there some kind of snowstorm or something during baby
Oh yeah,
Jack's birth?
oh yeah. That's why they crashed the car because of the snow. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
That was
goodness.
that was a whole new level.
Oh my goodness. I just have to say, I'd be scared to have a child in that time period.
Oh yeah. I mean, if that's what's happening, you crash the car, walk through the woods, and then hope for the best. That's intense.
And then the natural birth with like no medication, no. That's a no for
Yeah.
me.
See, my sister actually does do natural birth,
Oh wow.
and I admire her for that because for me,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that, but she does natural birth, and she says it's a very like not just like physical experience, but very emotional too
Oh wow.
because you go through the highs and lows and everything, and they they really show that really well in this episode.
Yes,
She
they
even told
do.
me after watching, she's like,
Oh
"Oh yeah,
wow.
they showed it really well." And
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
she would know. She did the
Yeah.
whole natural birth thing, so
I respect women that can do that, but me, I
yeah.
probably could not.
I have tons of respect, but yeah, I don't
I'd
think I could do that. Yeah.
I'd be like, "Give me all the meds, please.
Mhm.
Give me the
Like, pick me
epidural."
up, please.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Lee talking to Lucas about Rosemary. Now, we saw some of this in the promo the week before, but I'm not gonna lie, this got me a little teary-eyed, even watching it a second time. He says, I have felt a lot of things in my time with Rosemary. I really have. Love, joy, heartbreak, excitement, even a little confusion and impatience, but I have never felt this helpless. Oh, Lee.
Oh, Lee. So sweet.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I mean, you could tell Lee is just like absolutely dying to like be with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I heard someone say, I believe it was in an interview or something,
Yeah.
they said something to the effect that they had done research on birth during that time, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it was frowned upon for the husband to
Men.
be there.
Yeah.
And so, like, at first I was surprised that he wasn't going to be there with her through the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, but then when you actually look it up, yeah, men weren't
Yeah.
typically there
Mm-mm.
for birth, and so you can see though
Oh
that
my
Lee is
gosh.
absolutely dying not being there with her.
Yeah. And I'll get to his breaking point moment in a minute, but
Hmm.
we get another scene with Rosemary at home with Elizabeth and Faith. Her contractions are now 2 minutes apart. This got me emotional when Rosemary says, I'm so tired, I can't do it. And Elizabeth says, yes, you can. You can.
Hmm.
And her blood pressure has gone up and it's very high. And Faith mentions that if she doesn't stay calm, complications could arise. And Rosemary's like, Elizabeth, I need Lee.
Oh, that to me, that was like really when it felt real, like to
Yeah.
me, that was probably one of the best scenes of the
Yeah.
episode.
Can,
Obviously, what we're about to talk about, but
yeah.
I would like to mention though that part of birth, especially natural birth, is actually right before the baby comes.
Mm-hmm.
There's this phase that the mother goes through, where actually she will feel that like
Oh my
big
goodness.
sense of like wanting to give up and like
Mm.
I guess despair would be a good way to put it. Like it's just like you've been, working so hard for like
Mhm.
hours, and in Rosemary's case, 11 hours
Yeah,
in labor, and you just reach this point where you're kind of hitting a wall and it feels impossible. And they show that so well here.
they
And
do.
I think bringing in Lee, like not having Lee there and then bringing him in that moment, really like was the thing that helped
Yeah,
Rosemary to push through.
yes. And not just Kevin, but can we give a round of applause to Pascal as well? Those
Oh
two
yeah.
killed it in this episode.
Oh yeah. This was probably their best work
Yes,
on the show, I would
yes,
say. Is
I think
this
so too.
episode was
Yeah,
so good, so
yeah,
realistic. I loved it. I
yes,
can't say that enough. I loved it.
yes. We cut to Lucas still at Elizabeth's with Lee. He just put little Jack to bed and he comes down the stairs. Lee is like pacing back and forth. He's just anxious. He's ready to be with Rosemary. And after a couple seconds, he's like, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. I'm going in. That's it. And then Elizabeth busts through the door and she's like, she needs you. And the way Lee just ran after her, oh,
She's
my
just like,
heart.
boom. I'm already there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how he would
Already
have gone
there.
even if Elizabeth didn't come, he still would have gone.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Kind of reminds me of that song just a little bit. I'm already there. Hey, go look around.
Yes.
Couldn't resist. And my heart just melted into a puddle with this next moment with Lee and Rosemary. She says, please don't go. Don't leave me. And he says, I'm not going to go. I promise you, I'm going to stay right here. I love you so much. Oh, my heart.
I really do think this was the best scene of the
Yeah.
episode. It
The
was so
hand
good.
kisses.
Oh my gosh. Ah, literally. Oh my gosh. Just in a puddle. In a puddle. Like, oh my gosh. And what I really loved about this scene was that you have Rosemary, like she's an absolute wreck. Like she
Yeah.
just emotionally, physically, she just
Yeah.
can't do it. But then Lee comes and you just see her whole like demeanor like slowly like
Change.
start to change, and
Yeah.
he's there and he's like he's not flinching at all. He's just
Yeah.
like, I'm here for Rosemary. And it just really like showed the strength of their relationship, because sometimes they're played off for comedy or whatever,
Yeah.
but you really see the strength of their
Yeah.
relationship in that moment, and
Yeah.
I loved that. It
Yeah.
was it was phenomenal.
Totally agree. And
Yeah.
then we get the little candlelight vigil for Rosemary. Lucas is the one who let everyone know. And I loved that he did that. That was really nice of
Mhm.
him. That was
Yeah, that
thoughtful.
was sweet. Yeah.
And then Lee and Rosemary after the birth. This was one of my top favorite scenes in the episode and probably of the series.
Mhm.
Rosemary says perfect, and Lee says, how can she be anything but? And then they introduce Elizabeth to their goddaughter.
Yes. Okay, did you think it was going to be a girl?
Yeah,
Yeah. I think pretty much everyone thought that.
I will say there was one point where I thought maybe it could be twins,
Oh.
like one of each, because that hasn't been done since season 1 with Carla's
True.
twins. But I kind of figured it was going to be a girl. For one, possible potential seasons way down the line, setting
Mhm. Yes.
the Coulter baby with Jack.
Yes. I like that.
Season 30? I don't know.
It might take that long, but yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be cool to see.
It definitely would. Yeah, it definitely would. That would be
Then we'd
adorable.
have the Rosemary and Jack storyline that actually never
Yes!
happened.
We'd actually see it to its completion.
They haven't decided on a first name yet, but the middle name was easy, Elizabeth. This got me too.
Yes.
And
I
the
mean,
look on Elizabeth's face.
oh yeah. There were tears in her eyes. She's just like overjoyed, and I loved that. You
Yes.
just see how deeply she cares about them as a couple, but then also Rosemary, and then to see her just like experiencing that level of joy with Rosemary is just
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved that.
Question, because this has been talked about a lot since Sunday. What do you think the first name is going to be?
Oh, I think I have two theories.
Okay.
One, I think the baby's name is either going to be Abigail or Hope. That's what I think.
We're on the same page.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so here's my theory about Hope. And you might have the same thought about why it could be Hope. In this scene, Rosemary says, "We waited so long for this moment, we'd almost given up hope."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Rosemary was the one back in season 2 who suggested the name Hope Valley.
Uh-huh.
For the town.
Yes. And Lee and Rosemary both had a lot to do with the town's name changing.
Yes. And
so,
of course,
because Lee came in and it wasn't Coal Valley anymore because there was no
mine.
There was no coal mine because he brought in the lumber, and I could totally see that. That. There's a lot of depth to that name.
Yes.
If they decide to pick it.
And of course, there's a lot of hope in this show, so it would be fitting.
It definitely would. Yes.
I actually would love to see that. Or Abigail Elizabeth Coulter.
Yeah.
Either one would be good.
There have been a lot of Abigail references too this season, so I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, Hope would also be a good option, I think.
Yes. I also love to, in this scene, Rosemary says, "Why does the world look so different all of a sudden?" Lee says, "Because it is." And Elizabeth follows up with, "Because she's in it."
Oh, so cute. So cute.
Yes.
I love that last little line that Elizabeth added.
Yes.
Because she's in it.
Yes. And I just have to say, a couple people have mentioned this on Instagram specifically, but when Elizabeth first takes baby Coulter into her arms and, she says hi, it kind of looked like the baby waved back. Was that just me? Or...
I need to watch it again, but I'm sure you're right. That's so cute, though.
Yes. Going into Elizabeth's storyline for this episode, she had some nice moments that I really loved. Of course, we get a journal entry to start the episode, which says, "What a difference a few weeks have made to our little town. As word spreads about Hope Springs, tourists have been slowly arriving. The hot springs are bringing new opportunities, new prosperity, and new health. And soon there will be even more good news. My dear friend Rosemary is expecting any day now. When her time comes, the women of Hope Valley will keep her close and in our hearts." And then we get Elizabeth, Littlejack, and Lucas in town. That is the next scene. And I loved this moment. It was really cute.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of Lucas and Jack's thing for Jack to like sneak up on Lucas.
Yes.
I think he likes doing that. He did that back in season 9 where he jumped on Lucas while Lucas was
that was a cute scene.
It's kind of their thing. Yeah, it's kind of cute. Yeah.
I love how he said, "Boo, I got you. We were spying on you."
Yes, that was adorable.
Yes. Lee and Rosemary come up and they are talking about the baby and how she's doing. Rosemary complimenting the decor outside the saloon. Did you see the expression on little Jack's face? That was hilarious.
Yeah. That was really funny. Yeah.
When she was like, the open air and the cheerful ambiance of a Venetian piazza, coupled with the je ne sais quoi of a French cafe. He's like,
He's like, it's Greek to me.
yeah. Another moment when the tears start. Elizabeth and little Jack are talking about Lee and Rosemary becoming parents soon. And he says, a mommy and a daddy.
Okay, we all knew it had to happen someday, and he would bring it up someday, but
Yes.
I was not ready. I was like, oh my gosh. This is yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
the tears were flowing for sure.
yes. And then pass the bucket, please, because these next two scenes.
Oh my gosh.
But before I mention the majority of the scene, I have to say I thought it was adorable hearing Elizabeth calling little Jack Honey Bear.
Oh yeah. That was
That was,
really sweet.
yeah. And then he says, if Uncle is going to be a daddy, when can I see my daddy?
Oh, oh my gosh. You can tell in that scene that it took Elizabeth off guard, like so off guard. Like you could just see her face like change,
Yeah.
like total freeze, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
we're doing this. We're doing the thing." And you could tell it kind of blindsided her, and you know, you could see it really did throw a wrench into things for her, I think, a little bit, because
Yeah.
you know, grief will do that. Grief's not a linear process. It just kind of never really goes away, and sometimes it pops up at unexpected moments, and you could definitely see that happening with Elizabeth here.
Yeah.
It just kind of came up and it took her by surprise,
Yeah.
and she couldn't really shake it. I feel like it just
Yeah.
kind of stayed with her, and she needed to process it a little bit.
Yeah. They are talking about Jack being in heaven, and she says, I know that may seem far away, but your daddy is also in our hearts, here and right here, and that's where he'll always be. I'm about to start crying right now.
I know. To make it even more heart wrenching, I think it was When Calls the Heart TikTok.
Yeah.
They did a parallel of this scene with the scene between Jack and Cody in season three, where Jack basically says the same thing to Cody
I was
about
about to
his
say
dad.
that.
I know.
It was very reminiscent of that moment.
Yes. See, I didn't even think of that moment, but then when they put it out there, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Mountie hat scene.
Oh my gosh. If the previous scene brought the waterworks, this one did even more. It was, oh my gosh. That was really, like, that one really hit me. Like watching that one. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I just felt things from this episode that I haven't felt in a while, and that was one of those scenes where I was like really feeling it and really missing Jack, and I was just like, ah.
Yeah, me too. He says,
Yeah.
how do I look? And she says, you look just like your daddy.
And he did, and he
The
did.
smile
He
on his face.
Yes, the smile was literally Jack's smile. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh man.
Can we also give a round of applause to Highland because he killed it in this episode too?
Oh yeah. Like, how do you teach someone to look like Daniel Lissing when he's smiling? How do
They
you
did
teach
an incredible
someone?
job finding someone
They did.
that looked like both
For sure.
Elizabeth and Jack.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Aaron,
Yeah.
too, did a great job, as always. The whole
Oh
cast,
yeah.
of course.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes.
I did notice before we move on to the next scene, the drawing that Jack gave Elizabeth is still hanging up.
Mm-hmm. Always happy to see it. Yeah.
Yes. Little Jack and Lucas spending time together with Lee. That was really cute. He
Mm-hmm.
compliments the Mountie hat, and then they go on talking about Jack. I think Lucas handled this perfectly.
I think he did too, especially since, and we'll touch on this a little more later, he and Elizabeth haven't really had that conversation. So he
Yeah.
doesn't really have much to work with in terms of what he can tell Jack, because they just haven't had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he handled it really well. And it's a difficult thing. It's
Yeah.
difficult because Lucas isn't actually Jack's stepdad yet,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't know Jack's dad. And he's just, they, like I said, they haven't had that conversation
Mm-hmm.
yet. So it's just a really, really tough thing to navigate for Lucas. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he did a very good job
He
of,
did. Yes. Lucas offers to have ice cream, and Jack says, "Now that sounds like a plan."
yes. It brought me back to my family. Sometimes what they did whenever my mom would give birth, my dad would come back from the hospital afterwards, and we would have donuts and ice cream for breakfast and
Oh,
lunch, as just kind of like, that was kind of our tradition, is we would have
yeah.
dessert for breakfast. And
Oh,
this kind of reminded me of that, when
yeah.
Lucas is like, you know what, let's just have ice cream for lunch. I was
Yeah.
like, yep, that's what my dad would have done.
Yes. I have to say, this probably wasn't a phrase used back then, but it was still cute.
Yeah. Yes. It was adorable,
Yeah.
especially with Highland saying it. So yeah.
Yes. And then they play marbles, which I thought was adorable too.
Hmm.
Playing for keepsies.
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Nathan on the porch talking about Rosemary and single parenting. Another best scene of
Yeah.
the
Definitely
episode.
a best scene of season 10,
10.
I would
Yes,
say.
I
Yeah. I
agree.
mean, there's so much in this scene that is great. I
Yes.
love it. And
Yeah.
that scene, and Lee helping Rosemary when she's
Yes.
about to give birth.
Yeah.
Those two scenes were the ones that really stuck with me
Yes.
afterwards.
Agreed.
I think it's great to see Elizabeth and Nathan still, just like, they still support each other, but they just have
Yes.
such a strong bond.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, it's over single parenthood, but
Yeah.
at the same time, they really care about each other.
They do. Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely a reversal of the roles in this
Mm-hmm.
scene, because
Yeah.
usually Elizabeth is the one giving Nathan parenting advice,
Mm-hmm.
but here he's actually the one
Yeah, I mean,
giving
her.
advice.
Yeah. That was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. What were your thoughts on the scene?
Same as you. I thought it was one of the best. And you could
Yeah.
still see the looks between them.
Mhm. Yeah. They
Really
still
sweet.
got it. Yeah.
Yes.
I love their scenes together,
Yes,
because
me too.
they have such a natural
Yeah.
connection. And
To round out Elizabeth's storyline in this episode, the porch swing conversation with Lucas. Always love a good porch swing conversation on this podcast.
yes, yes, for sure. I
And
always
this,
like to refer to the porch swing as the therapy swing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this one was a great one. There were some minor things that kind of bothered me slightly, but it was still a good scene between them.
Yeah. I would say definitely some mixed emotions with
Questions?
this scene. Questions, mixed emotions, mixed reactions. I've seen a lot of people having some mixed reactions on
Yeah.
social media too. My take is that I really, really do think, like, you could say whatever you want, but I really do think Lucas and Elizabeth need to learn how to communicate a little better,
Yeah.
because this conversation should have been had a
A
very
long
long
time ago about
time. Yeah,
Jack. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that, I do feel bad for Lucas that they're
Mhm.
backtracking and doing it now when they're already engaged and almost getting married, but it's just something they need to do as a couple
Mhm.
is they really need to learn to have these conversations and not wait
Yeah.
until, you know, things need to be talked about. They need to
Yeah.
do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, that was
And
one thing. I
mhm,
wish it had
yeah.
been talked about earlier than season 10, but we're getting it now.
Yeah.
So at least it's happening. But
Yeah. And also one little thing that did bother me a little bit was right at the end. He says, "That's how I love you," and she didn't
yep.
say it back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, come on.
Yeah,
Come
that
on.
has me questioning. The fact that she didn't say it back is kind of concerning. Like there's trouble in paradise, as they say, for this couple.
What I would say, and my biggest takeaway from their story in this episode, is that the sense I'm getting is that what's happening here, is kind of the calm before
The
some
storm.
kind of disagreement. I can feel it on the horizon, and I think it might be partially because maybe Lucas is a little bit bothered that they're backtracking and he would rather move forward, which totally understandable. On Elizabeth's side, it's a lack of communication, I think. I mean,
Hmm.
both of them need to work on the communication bit, but it's just they need
Hmm.
to, move forward, but they're not
Yeah.
doing that. And I feel like the only way for them to move forward, and I can sense some building tension, is that it's going to release in some form of disagreement.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that might start next week, but we don't know yet. So
Yeah. We don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I feel like part of it maybe could be related to old feelings for Jack.
Yeah. What
And
are your thoughts on the scene? I wanna hear your thoughts, because I shared mine, but
I thought it was a nice moment altogether, but I have the same questions as you. They definitely need more communication.
yeah. And
And
that's
it,
totally not me saying they're a bad couple. That's
yeah,
totally not what I'm saying. I'm just saying at this point, they really need to learn to communicate, because so far they've done a lot of doing but not talking first, and then talking about it afterwards, and
yeah,
then having conversations really late in their relationship together. And
mm-hmm,
I think it's time they start talking things
yeah,
out. I think that would be,
mm-hmm,
so I'm totally not saying this from a
yeah,
place of, oh, they're a bad couple.
yeah,
That's totally not what I'm saying at all.
yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
There's definitely, in my opinion, some kind of trouble brewing for them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Moving on to Nathan Alley and a little bit of Faith in this episode. Nathan, Scout, and Faith outside the mercantile. I'm so glad that Faith apologized. Thank
Thank
you.
goodness. Yes. I was like, please don't drag this out for another week. And then she came up first scene and apologized. I'm like, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Finally. Finally, she, you know,
Admits to being stubborn.
yeah. Yeah. And he's like, stubborn? You?
You?
No.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
And then Scout recognizes the young man leaving the mercantile. The bandit? Question mark. But I knew pretty much right away it was the bandit.
Yeah. I mean, once they refer to him as like, oh, he's just a kid, it's like, okay, sound familiar?
Yeah, he injured his hand, and Nathan is already suspicious.
Hmm. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, so are you new in town?" And that's
Yeah.
when you know, oh yeah, no, the wheels are turning.
Yeah. After Faith tends to the bandit's hand, he escapes out the window, and Nathan is just like standing there, like, you going somewhere? And he finds lard in his back pocket that he stole from the mercantile.
Hmm. Did you notice that when Nathan was standing there with his arms crossed, Scout is sitting right next to him?
No, I missed that.
Yes. It was very funny.
I'll have to catch it next time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Faith sees Nathan taking him to the jail, and she's just like, Nathan, what are you doing? And she says that he's just a kid. Still no excuse. And then
Yeah.
she recognizes the handkerchief, and she's like, you.
For like 2 seconds, she's like, you. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
I just, Faith, I get that you care,
Yeah.
but when somebody steals, you can't just let them go,
No.
especially when you don't know what's going on.
On. Yeah.
At that point, she didn't even know what was going on. So,
No.
yeah, it's just, I don't know. Faith,
Yeah.
Faith needs to just let Nathan do his job because,
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She's a doctor, he's the Mountie. It's
Yeah.
just,
According to the bandit, who I believe his name is Harry, from what it said in the credits, it's been a tough time. Everything has dried up in the valley where he is from. His parents have been trying to hold on to their farm, but nothing will grow and there's no work, and he has younger sisters. I think this is going to come back up with everything being dried up.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I guarantee it's going to
There's
come
been
back
some
up.
talk about this that I've
Yeah. For some
already
reason,
seen.
I actually already knew there was going to be a drought in this
Yeah.
season. I don't know how I knew that. I think it was from some newspaper clipping
Mm-hmm.
that got released during filming, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think the drought is going to come back up.
Yeah.
Also, I do have a question.
Yes.
If your valley's dried up and you don't have food for your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
why are you stealing lard from the mercantile?
Lard's not really a food. It's just like
It's not. It's
an
literally not.
ingredient.
Yeah. Why are you stealing lard? Why are you not stealing like food, like physical food? I don't know. I don't know.
Lard also takes me back to season 3 when Charlotte cooked the shepherd's pie with
Yeah.
lard.
I definitely thought of that for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I love Nathan's line. He's like, in my experience, a thief is good at two things, stealing and lying. And this one only seems to be good at the latter.
I have to say, when Nathan said that, it brought me back to when his dad showed up in town.
Yes.
And we know that his dad, it was actually a very similar
Yeah.
situation, except he was the dad in the
Yes.
situation, not the kid.
Yeah.
But he would go around and steal to provide for his family.
Yes.
And he lied a lot, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of Nathan's frustration is coming from that place.
His dad's
Which, yeah,
experience.
like it's a very similar scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is coming from that.
Yeah. Faith says people make mistakes and we can give them a second chance. Sometimes they'll surprise you.
Did you think there was a little bit of double speak going on in there?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. What about
Yeah,
you?
like the first time I saw it, I didn't think so. But when someone else like shared it in that context of like,
Mhm.
oh, there's a little bit of double speak of her
Yeah.
situation with Nathan,
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like, huh, yeah, it could be because maybe she feels like she made a mistake and she wants a second chance, or
Yeah.
maybe vice versa. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was just interesting to me
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Agree. Nathan in jail with the bandit. He brings him meatloaf to eat. And I love how Scout just like goes to sit on the bed next to him in the cell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like as soon as they figured out that he's the bandit, Scout's all like, "Okay, I'm done being a mountie dog now. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be a dog."
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nathan asks him a little bit more about what his family does in Eagle Creek, and he just talks about the bad crop and how it did them in, and that it came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's gonna
Definitely.
come back up.
It definitely is. Yeah. And the fact that it's a whole valley, not just like one family struggling or whatever,
Yeah.
tells me that maybe the bandits are from that town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think he's the only bandit out there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. Nathan takes the bandit to have a talk with Ned and Florence. I liked this scene when he owned up to his mistake and he agreed to work at the mercantile until he reimbursed Ned and Florence.
I agree. And I was a little worried that they were just going to be like, "Oh, we feel bad for the kid. Let's let him go." But no, I
No, Ned
actually
and
like that
Florence were
they
like,
actually were like, yeah, Ned and Florence are like, "No, no, no."
yeah, Florence
Yeah.
is just like standing there
I
with
was
her arms crossed.
surprised Florence even went with it, honestly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Nathan says we believe in second chances around here, which is
Mm,
what Faith said pretty much
yeah. And
in
I
the
would
scene
say
before.
that just shows huge growth for Nathan
Yes.
because in past seasons, I don't think that's a line that he would ever say. Like, just because
Mm-mm.
he's very justice oriented,
Yeah.
but and he has like a very black and white
Mm-hmm.
way of thinking, but him actually saying that without being prompted by anyone, it just shows that he has grown a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yes. Agreed. Question: does Nathan have insomnia again? Because Lucas, during the candlelight vigil, asked him about that.
I was curious because the way Lucas said it, it sounded like it could just be a general thing about the whole
Yeah.
crowd being awake at that hour,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it also was directed like he said it when Nathan walked up,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting to me
Yeah.
because we know that Nathan has had an insomnia problem
Yes, before
in the
season
past.
9.
Yeah. And even like Bill kind of added his 2 cents and was like, "Oh, I haven't slept the way I
In a
used to." And
while.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like implying that both of them possibly
Mm-hmm.
have some form of insomnia. But
Yeah.
I almost feel like with Nathan's shoulder acting up in episode 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then now this mention of insomnia too, I almost feel like the after effects of that accident that he got
Mm-hmm.
in are going to come up later
Yeah.
because we've been hinted at a few things. I don't know
Yes.
that for sure, but I almost feel like something is going to
I think so
come
too.
up
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
And Allie shows up in her pajamas asking about Rosemary. That was really sweet.
It was so sweet. Did you see when she grabbed Nathan's arm?
Yes.
That was so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth says she's a force of nature.
I had to laugh a little bit when Elizabeth said that because Allie's still like a kid, and kids just kind of like, they want the truth of like, oh yeah, she's doing okay or whatever. But then
Yeah.
Elizabeth is like, she's a force of nature.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that's a poetic way to say she's doing okay, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I laughed a little bit when
Yeah.
she said
Just a
that.
little bit. Moving on to Henry. He only had 2 scenes in this episode. The first one, this was a beautiful moment. He is in the stable with the horse, and then Joseph comes in. They are talking about horses, and then Joseph says, "You know that peace you feel right now? You could have it all the time. I'm always here if you want to talk." Thank you, Joseph, for saying that because it was needed.
Yes. Oh yeah. I really liked that scene because at first I saw Henry like
Leaning up
leaning
against.
against the horse, and I'm like, oh no, is like Henry like dying or something? I don't know. But then when he actually like he said that it was a way for him to, like find peace was with
Yeah.
the horses, and I really liked that scene, and I love what Joseph said, like, oh, this peace, you could have it all the time. And I know for a fact that's going to come back later.
Yes.
I know Joseph and Henry are going to do some connecting later in the season.
They
so
will.
Stay tuned for that.
Yes. And horses are very intuitive, I've heard.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. For sure. We
And
saw plenty of that in season 9 and even
Yes.
season 5 when Jack died and
Yeah.
Sergeant and Elizabeth connected.
Yes. And even from watching Heartland, I know that they are
Of
very
course,
intuitive.
yes. Heartland's all about that. Yeah.
Yes.
It actually did bring me to Heartland when I saw Henry
A little
like on the
bit,
horse.
yeah.
It's like, oh, horse therapy. I could see that being a thing in Heartland.
Yeah. The conversation with Bill and Joseph at the saloon, this was kind of comical at the end. Henry has to do community service, which Joseph will oversee. And this community service will involve working with his hands to build something for the town. And Henry's like, you two, the two of you, you're terrible liars. Terrible. I'll do it though.
I have to say, like, I thought it was a little bit silly, but at the same time, I was like, it was really funny, and I actually liked that they added some levity to Henry's story, which is a little, it's very heavy this season.
Yes.
It's very heavy, so I appreciated the little moment of humor in there. It was really funny.
I hope we get to see more of that Henry in the future.
I hope so too. Yeah, I hope so too.
Madeline and Jamie St. John. The first scene is Bill and Madeline in the saloon. They are talking about Jamie, and Madeline is thinking about staying in Hope Valley and buying a house in the country.
I don't know if we can trust her.
Not sure yet.
You know what I think? I think she's trying to buy land, but not so she can build on it, but so she can buy it for a developer. That's what I think. I don't think she's buying it for herself. Yeah.
I think she's connected to the storyline with the bandit.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
She might. Yeah, I think so, because the land that she wanted
with the valley drying up.
It had a huge pond right next to it. Mm-hmm. And there was water, and she kept talking about the hot springs and like water, and she keeps mentioning it. And I'm like,
yeah,
suspicious. Yeah.
Yes. Madeline and Jamie in town. Jamie doesn't want to go on the tour that his mom is going to go on of Hope Valley. He doesn't want to be in Hope Valley. He wants to go back home and to his school. Kind of feel bad just a little bit for Jamie, because he seems like he's trying to get along with people in town.
Yeah. He's definitely trying, especially with the kids in Hope Valley.
Toby was kind of mean at first. Shame on you, Toby.
I was like, Toby, oh, chill out.
Way to go, Cooper, though. He invites Jamie to play basketball. Yeah. I thought that was really nice.
I do have to say, Toby did make me laugh quite a bit in that scene.
Yes.
But, I was kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for Cooper for coming in, coming in as a good friend there.
Yeah. Mike takes Madeline on a tour of Hope Valley. She sees the land she wants to buy. And then he starts talking about all of Bill's jobs in town.
Okay, I had wondered if they would actually bring this up, because I know in several interviews, Kevin and Jack Wagner have actually joked about all of the jobs that Bill has, and it's been kind of a running joke. And I was kind of like, is it going to make it into the show. And sure enough, it did.
It
And when I saw
did.
it, I was like, yep, there it is.
Yes.
It's kind of been a running joke for a little while. So I
Yes.
appreciated seeing
Yeah.
that.
Madeline talking to Bill in his office. She interrupts him eating his sandwich. Now, this is the second time he is interrupted with his lunch. And she mentions how she wants to buy the land that she saw, but he says no because it's owned by the town. Way to go, Bill.
Yes. I appreciate that he's not letting whatever he might be feeling about her get in the
Yeah.
way of his duties.
Yes.
So, yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, I can't really get a read on whether he likes her or not. I
I
think he
can't.
might, but I can't really get a read on it.
Please, not another love
Ugh,
triangle.
no. Yeah, I think that would just be a big fat no.
Team no triangles. Team no triangles.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We're over that. We don't need any more of that.
Oh my goodness. Madeline and Jamie see Elizabeth in town with some of her students, and they want Jamie to come to school with them. I thought that was nice. And of course,
That was
Elizabeth agrees with Madeline's permission.
mm-hmm. Yes. I think school being at the Hope Valley School will
Cool.
be a good thing
Yeah.
for Jamie.
Yes. The Jack Thornton School.
Yes.
And that was the last of them that we see in this episode. And moving on to Bill. We were just talking about him a little bit, but I loved the scene with him teaching Jamie basketball. That was really nice.
That was sweet. Especially since you can tell Jamie really looks up to Bill.
Yes.
And Bill really wants to like be there for Jamie.
Yeah.
It was giving me very like I don't know if you remember this. Remember Tim and Shane from Heartland? Shane
Yeah.
is Tim's
Yes.
son, and they kind of reconnect.
Yeah.
And Tim is
Mhm.
like trying to help Shane come out of his
Yes.
shell. I was getting those kind of vibes from
Yeah.
Bill and Jamie here, and
Yeah.
I'm liking it. I'm liking
Me
it.
too.
Yeah.
It was also reminiscent for me of the scene in season 4 with Bill teaching Cody how to pitch for baseball.
Yes, you're right. Yes, it totally brought me back to that too,
Yeah.
for sure.
Bill in his office with Joseph. He's like, "Are you busy?" And he's like, "Never for you," as he eats his sandwich.
That was pretty funny.
The look on his face, he's just like, "Can I eat, please?"
Yeah, poor Bill. Too busy to eat during the day.
Yeah. And they talk about Henry and his reaction to the charges being dropped. They come up with a plan, which we see in the scene that we already talked about in the saloon. Bill and Mike in the saloon. This was after Henry had left. They are talking about the land Madeline wants to buy, and Mike suggests that he sells his land. Bill believes there's something about Madeline that doesn't add up, and I love how Mike says something along the lines of, because she has eyes for you.
Yes, that scene made me laugh quite a bit. Because Mike is like, oh, just because she has eyes for you and she's
Getting you off
throwing you
track.
off your game. And like Bill's like, eyes?
Off my
Like, almost
game.
like he's thinking of her eyes. It's very funny. Yeah, I was surprised Bill hasn't sold the land yet.
I know. Yeah.
Because remember way back in season 8, he actually told Nathan that he had a buyer who was interested.
Yes.
And at that point, Nathan wanted to buy the land, but he ended up not buying it. Yeah, I was surprised that that buyer didn't actually like pan out, which is interesting. So I don't know.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it looks like we will see more of them in this week's episode. Why don't we just talk about that preview for next week or this week before we wrap up?
Yeah. So we have
Baby
we have the
Coulter's
whole baby
thing.
Coulter. Yeah. Of course, the whole town wants to know what the baby's name
Name's
is.
gonna be.
Yeah. So that I'm intrigued to see that. I'm
Yes.
kind of glad they waited until the next episode to tell us because
Yeah.
it kind of adds a little intrigue.
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting to see Lee and Rosemary deal with having a newborn and
Yes.
waking up at all hours of the night, which is going to happen, I guarantee. Then we have Madeline and Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole. You can see that he's really suspicious at this point, not just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of playing around. He's actually suspicious.
Yes.
Actually talking to Nathan about it. I get the sense that Nathan and he might talk about a little more, and Nathan might be able to give some advice on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Lucas and Elizabeth
Elizabeth.
and a recreation of their Union City date.
Yes.
And Lucas wants to build a house. Yeah, which, that does seem like the natural course of action when you're about to get married, and I know Jack did that as well.
Yeah.
But personally, I think I can smell trouble because I don't think he talked to her about this. And I don't know if she's gonna be on board with that.
Now, I messaged you about this the other day. Part of me wonders if he's going to buy Jack's land without knowing that it's Jack's land, and then Elizabeth is going to get mad.
Oh, no.
And that's why we see Elizabeth in that photo at the land.
Yeah. Oh, it could be. I mean, that I feel like she would know if her land got sold, but at the same time, yeah, I do get the sense, though, that she's probably going to shoot down the idea, not because she doesn't want a house with Lucas, but because I think she's going to want to stay in the row house because all of her memories are there of, giving birth, marrying Jack, everything like that. And I feel like part of the argument might be that she wants to stay because of all the memories, and then he might want to leave because he wants to start anew.
Over. Yeah.
And I feel like it might be less about the house and more about the whole surrounding issue. So I don't know. I think things are gonna get a little dicey. We shall see. And then of course we know that there's gonna be a camping trip with
that's right.
Yeah. I'm very
saw that sneak peek. That was a great scene too.
Yeah. And we know that Joseph and Angela are going to go with.
Yes. I can't wait to see that.
Nathan and Allie. I'm curious to see if Nathan and Joseph have some conversations.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good episode. Yeah. I'm excited.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think we're finally picking up speed. And I think the season's just going to get better from here. So
I think so too. Things are heating up in Hope Valley. Slowly but surely.
Yes, they are.
I think this was all around the best episode of the season so far. We already mentioned it, but I would give it 9 out of 10. I think that's what I said on my rating.
Yeah, I said 9 out of 10 too. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my favorite of the season. My favorite in a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we're actually going to have episodes that are even better later on.
Yes.
Just a prediction, but you never know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, Hearties. I think this wraps up our chat about season 10, episode 4, Great Expectations. If you enjoyed this review, you can like this video. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed and have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. And we will see you next week. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye, Hearties.